Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Kuf Vav. We are still in the middle of Chelek. We have moved on from the three malachim that don't have a portion in the world to come to the four commoners that do not. We've been focusing on Bilam. And we pick up with, let's go, Vayasim Davar B'fi Bil'am. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 lines. From the bottom, exactly in the middle of the line, with a little circle there. Vayasim davar b'fi Bilam. God placed a word in the mouth of Bilam. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Malach, an angel was sort of given with him to I guess instruct him what to say. Rabbi Yonasan Amar Chika, a what do you call it? Like a hook, like a fish hook. God dragged him. The Gemara says that that these don't really contradict. One is speaking about like if you got a hook in a fish's mouth, it can't like open its mouth, or I don't know, whatever. It can't get its tongue out of its mouth. If you have like the angel or another version had it was a bit or something, like sort of forces its tongue out. And the Gemara says sort of the idea is that one of these is preventing him saying what he wanted to say, and the other is getting him saying the right thing. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. From the blessing of that wicked person, you can figure out, just do the reverse, and you can figure out what he wanted to say to curse us, okay? Because God reversed it. So he wanted to say we should not have synagogues and study halls. How how beautiful are your tents, O Jacob. So he obviously wanted to say the exact opposite. And he wanted to say that God's divine presence shouldn't rest on us. Yisrael, your dwelling places, but here's from also where Shechina, where God dwells, right? It's beautiful. He wanted to say that our kingdom, the kingdom should not be extended, like it'll be a long time. Like rivers that are stretched out. Rivers, the imagery of kingship. We should not have olives and vineyards. Olive trees and vineyards. Like gardens by the river. Let their aroma not be aromatic, not be sort of sort of a wafting, which also could be, of course, metaphoric. Like ahalim, which I think the point here is an ohel could be obviously a tent, and that fits with the word natat, the plant, but ohel is also a type of an aromatic fragrance. What is it? More of a ohalot. So I think that's how it's being read here. We should not have kings that are of stature, I guess physical and otherwise. Karazim alimayim, like cedar trees by the water. Lo yela melech ben melech. We should not have a king, the son of a king, right? It should not be like a kingship, a royal family. Yizamayim midayav, let the water flow from their buckets. So the sense of like one, coming from the next. Lote malchusan shaletes be'umot. He wanted to say that it should not have kingship over the other nations, dominion. V'zaro b'mayim rabim, his descendants over many waters. Lote azam malchutan, it should not be powerful. V'yarem me'agag malko, their king will be greater than Agag. Lote emas malchusan, there should not be, or their kingship should not be fearful. Vatina se malchusa, let the kingship be lifted up. So basically just reverse it all. So in the course of a lot of these metaphors are not explained. So Rabbi Yochanan is also explaining or taking his take on what the metaphors mean, and also telling us we can infer like that he wanted to say the opposite, right? Because the pasuk says, God reversed it. So if you want to understand what he wanted to say, just take the bracha and reverse it. Okay. Unfortunately, all of the negative stuff eventually came true. Did it come true because he wanted to say it? Did it come true because of our sins that would have come true anyway? But it's an interesting question, right? Even though he didn't articulate it, his thoughts actually did eventually materialize when we sinned, right? If you think about it, we currently don't have a kingship. 80% of that was about kingship, right? We're no longer in the land of Israel with these beautiful, at that time, olive trees and vineyards, etc., etc. Okay, so kulam chazu liklal. In the end, they all reverted to their original intentional curse. Chutz mibate knesios mibate midrashas, except for the very first one, the matova lech Yaakov. Because no matter where we are, no matter how much we're in exile, we still have synagogues and study halls. God reversed the curse to a blessing. God loves you. Klala v'lo klalot. He only reversed, like, so, only one of them remained a blessing. The other of them, they in the end reverted to being a klalot. But one klala remained a blessing, that one intention, and one thing that was intended as a klala remained a blessing, and that was the Matovu Alach Yaakov. What's meant by the verse? Trustworthy are the wounds of a beloved, and changing, like unreliable, are the kisses of an enemy. So tov klala shekilel achia hashiloni et Yisrael yodami bracha shebircham bilam harasha. I'd rather be beaten up by my friends than kissed by my enemies, is basically what it's saying. Better is the curse that Achia Shiloni, the prophet, cursed Israel, better than the blessings that Bilam has given us. Why? Achia Shiloni kilas Yisrael bakana. When he wanted to curse us, he used the imagery of a reed. Shene'emar, as it says, God will smite Israel, like the reed will sort of sway in the waters. Okay, so it seems like a very bad image, right? We won't be firm, we'll be swaying. But no, it's actually at the root of it is a very good image. So if you think about a reed in water, no matter how many waters pass by, the reed stays where it's planted. The waters in the end don't uproot it. Bad things happen to it, but it doesn't get destroyed. Even if it's cut down, it grows back. V'sharshav merubim, and has very deep roots. Even all the winds of the world will come and try to blow it. Because of its flexibility, they don't uproot it from its place. But it like sways with the wind, rolls with the punches. And when the winds finally cease, it's where it always was. So it's able to withstand no matter how much, anguish and travails and so on. So that curse is really a blessing. We'll suffer, but we'll be able to withstand it all. About Bilam HaRasha, the wicked Bilam, Bircham Be'eretz, when he blessed us, he compared us to a cedar tree.
What can
I tell you? All right, that doesn't fit our points right now. My eretz an eretz does not grow out of the water. Okay, an eretz grows, I guess, in a forest, not by the water. Maybe presumably also water is the imagery of Torah, source of life. It has shallow roots. The ein gizo machlif, if it's cut down, it doesn't grow back. It's true that because of its sturdiness, normal wind doesn't get it to move, right? It'll just stay firm. It won't even bend with the wind. But if a very powerful wind, if like a hurricane hits it, okay, it'll knock it down and upturn it. Okay, so therefore, even within that blessing, ultimately is a hidden curse. And within the curse is a hidden blessing. Okay, the curse that we got from Achia Shiloni. The logo, not only that, the imagery of the reed is good in another way. But the reed gets used to be made a quill to write a Sefer Torah. So ultimately, yes, bad things will happen, but ultimately it speaks about its sort of more spiritual orientation and the fact that it's able to withstand those things. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, now back to Bilam and explicating what Bilam did.
Also, the intention, one is to uphold the Jewish people by rebuking them, and the other is to try and destroy them.
Right. I mean, the blessing was rooted in an attempt to destroy. That is correct. Whereas Achia is trying to ultimately do good. That is absolutely correct. That's well said. Yeah, you're right. And, that fits also the verse, right? Because when a friend, wounds you, maybe says harsh words, critical words, or whatever, it's ultimately coming out of friendship. Whereas when an enemy does nice things to you, it's usually coming out of some ulterior motive, and some hidden agenda. That's a very good point. Okay, Vayarze Keni. Now back to Bilam. He saw the Keni, and he lifted up his parable and he said, right, Eitan Moshavecha v'sim b'sela kinecha is the end of the pasuk. Strong is your dwelling place, and you place in the rock your nest. Keni and kinecha, obviously, we're playing word. Amalo Bilam Yitro. So Keni here is Yitro. Okay, he said to Yitro, Keni, like not Canaanite, Keni. Lo ayiti manaboso eitza. I don't get it. How did you merit to such greatness? Weren't you with us with that whole, in that whole meeting there with Paro, according to the Midrash, which we're about to see, when Paro took advice what to do with the Israelites? There were three people there, Bilam, Yitro, and Eov. So you were part of that whole plot. So this is rhetorical. Weren't you there with us? So Mio Shivcha Eitel Eitanei Olam. So Eitan Moshavecha, as strong as your dwelling place. Who allowed you to dwell with the strong ones, the mighty ones of the world? Who allowed you to dwell with Israel? You were part of the plot. And this is based on the whole midrash. There were three in that plot to destroy the Israelites. Elohim, Bilam, Eov, Yitro. The Bilam, Eov, and Yitro. So Bilam gave the advice to throw the babies in the Nile, so we see later, right? That Bilam gives advice to Balak that ultimately leads to the downfall of the people, whatever. At least the way Chazal connect the dots. So he was the one who gave the advice. So where were we? Bilam Sheyat Neharag, he was killed, right? Which was later in the Torah, which we're going to get to at the bottom of the daf. Eov Sheshatak, Eov, wasn't in favor, but he didn't have the courage to speak up against Paro, so he was silent. So Nidon B'Yisurin, so he suffered. That's the explanation for all the sufferings of Eov, right? Which is important, right? It's not just
which assumes Eov was actually a real person,
right? Of course, and it's also, but the point being also that it's not just about did you do evil or not, but even not standing up against evil, silence. And of course, part of this also plays off the beginning story by Eov, where the bad things initially happened to him and he remained silent. Right? If you remember the story, when the first bad things happened to it, he says, he did not speak up against God. He did not speak up against God. And then finally worse and worse things. And then he said something. So it sort of is playing on this theme that when, he doesn't speak up, So anyway, so he suffered. The Yitro, Shabarach, and Yitro, he was not, he couldn't speak up. Maybe he wouldn't have done any good. He would have been killed, but he wasn't going to be just a silent bystander. So he ran away, to at least separate himself from everything that was going on. So, because of that, he left the evil Paro. So then he was taken in eventually by Israel. His descendants dwell in the chamber of the hewn stone, where the Sanhedrin is in the base of Mikdash. We just had this just 2 days ago. Okay, and that's Eitan Moshavecha. That's why you dwell amongst the mighty ones, because you were taken in. You were in the meeting, but then you rejected it and you ran away. Shenemar, Umishpachot Sofrim, from the family of scribes, Yosha Yavetz. Yavetz here is read to mean the same to the Lishkat HaGazit. Taritim, Shimatim, Sokatim, so that's the name of the families. Hema Kenim Habaim Chamat Avi Beit Rechev. Those are the Kenites who came from Chamat, the father of Beit Rechev. So who are the Kenites? V'ksiv, Ubnei Keni, Choten Moshe, the sons of Keni, the father-in-law of Moshe. Alu Meyarat Marim. Fine.
So what does that prove?
That proves that Keni is the Mishpachat Sofrim, or scribes, and Yoshua Yavetz means that they dwell in the Lishkat HaGazit. I don't know exactly how Yavetz is Lishkat HaGazit.
I mean, okay. Just the metaphor of Yitro just running away, it's sort of to me seems like running away from your problems kind of thing, as opposed to dealing with it. But
well, Moshe also runs away rather than get killed by Paro. He's not being complicit. So you can, you could speak up. If you're silent and remain in place, then you're complicit. So you can speak up and get killed. You can run away, but there are a limited number of choices what you can do when you've got a tyrant there. Okay. He lifted up his parable and he said, "Woe, who will live when God does these things?" So what does that mean? So Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Levi, oy ni shemechayeh atzmo b'shem el. So from the word misumo, mishimo, the name of God. Woe is the person who gives himself life from the name of God. What does that mean? That sounds like a good thing. Like you learn Torah, it gives you life. Anyway, but Rashi says a couple explanations. But the first and probably the pshat is a person who makes himself into a god, that treats himself as a god. Now, Rashi has two explanations. One is literally, goes around and says that he's God. And the other, which then probably, and maybe one of the reasons it's taken out, is some scholars think that it's obviously a not so shielded critique of Jesus and Christianity. Or the other explanation Rashi says is a person that goes to bed and decides, that they're going to just act as a god on this earth, meaning just live a godless life and just, enjoy the sensual pleasures and so on. Okay, but it probably means more the former.
Oh, but it doesn't mean anything like taking God's name, using it as an incantation.
Now, it could be, but it's not the way Rashi with it. Here's another one. So this is probably more closer to the Pshat. Woe is the one who will be there when God does these things. What are these things? Woe is the nation that tries to sort of get in the way when God comes to redeem his people.
What's the sumo?
Lasim, when God does these things, places these things, create, effects these things. Who's the one that thinks that you can put your garment between a lion and a lioness when they are having, when they are copulating?
That's an interesting metaphor.
It is a very interesting metaphor. Right. I mean, they're both these powerful things. I mean, most of the time, they're very quiet, right? I mean, lions, most of the time they look like they're lazy, right? I mean, if we go to the zoo, right, they're just hanging around doing nothing. But when they actually are acting, their power comes forth, right? But the idea that sort of the male and the female, right, it's not that we're God's children or God's whatever. It's like the whole, the male, female copulating, whatever is, the Kabbalists love it. But anyway, all right. So, okay, B'tzim miyad kitim. Now it's seen from the hands of kitim. So Amar Rav libun aspir. So I don't know. I read what's his name, Sansino. They have some fascinating explanations. It's like some of the white kingdom, or I don't know. Anyway, some fascinating discussions about what this might be referring to. But
they suggest the legion of.
The White Legion. But what do they say that means historically? Do they have anything?
They would know that Latin and Greek word is Legion of Soldiers.
Legion of Soldiers.
What is aspir is a word for Legion of Soldiers, right? Yeah, but I'll read you what Sansino says. Sansino usually has the more interesting, what do you call it, historical thing. Here, he says like this: Libun aspir, Okay, so some read it aspar, the Persian aswar, which means knight, a legion of knights. Some want to say. This verse is accordingly interpreted as legions will come from the coast of Chitim, Chitim being taken to denote Rome. Jasper reads the whole passage as an interpolation of 8th or 9th century and referring to Leo the Isaurian, the Byzantine emperor, leader of the iconoclastic movement which caused a long war between the east and west of the empire. So that, I guess, would be the Libun. All right,
anyway,
whatever.
So you say here.
Yes.
Sort of along those lines. Libun, Legion, that's legion. Right. And then Aspir, some Greek derivation, a tactical unit.
Okay, there you go. Okay, Vinu Ashur, Vinu Aver, and they will afflict Assyria and they will afflict Aver. Arashur Katli Miktal. I don't get how they're getting this next thing from the verse because it's the same word. But up to Ashur, they will kill people. Mikan ve'elech, from that point on, Mishabdi Shibude. They will no longer be killing people, they'll be subjugating them. All right. Hinni Olech Lami. Now then Bilam says to Balak, I'm going back to my people. Let me go tell you what this nation will do to your nation in the end of days. Okay, so fine, like what's going to happen to the nation of Moab through the hands of Bnei Israel. But according to the Gemara understands that this is where he gave him advice to have the Moabite and Midianite women or whatever seduce Bnei Israel. The reason it does it is because later it says, after that they sinned with the daughters of Midian and whatever in the Arvot Moab, which happens right after the story of Bilam and Balak. It says, they were against Bnei Israel through the word of Bilam. So it understands that Bilam was the one who gave Balak this advice, and it connects it to this verse. But this verse says, let me tell you what this people is going to do to your people. But according to the way the Gemara wants to connect the dots, it's I want to give you advice what you should do to them. So that's what the Gemara just asks. The Gemara says, it should be what your nation should do to this nation, not what this nation will do to your nation, because he's going to give them advice how to cause the downfall of Bnei Israel. So right, he just wanted to reverse it, like when you say Soneim Shel Yisrael. Now, why did he want to reverse it? Right? I mean, he wants to speak to Balak. He wants to speak about the downfall of Bnei Israel. So anyway, so Rashi has two explanations, but the second one, which is the easier one, is no. Balak said it the normal way. Bilam said it the normal way. Let me tell you how you should cause the downfall of this people, what you should do to them. But when the pasuk wrote it in the reverse. so it didn't want to sort of, okay. So anyway, it's a type of a euphemism. But basically, we're reading this as the advice Bilam gives Balak to cause Bnei Israel to sin. Okay, so where were we? Amalehem Elohim shel elu soni zimahu. The God of this people hates sexual fornication. And by the way, this is completely bizarre. They happen to like nice linen clothes. Okay, why is that relevant? Okay, because they're on their guard. It's not just going to be easy to seduce them, but we're going to say get in through the linen garments. That's going to be the way to ultimately seduce them for sexual sin. How's that going to happen? Let me give you some advice.
It's been a downfall of many.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Those linen garments have led so many people astray. So let me give you some advice. Go hang out some curtains. Now, it doesn't seem that these curtains are necessarily for linen garments. It's sort of like a street fair. It sounds like the way it's described. Okay, go, put these tents up, make a street fair. And have some prostitutes be manning the booths in these street fairs. Have the older one on the outside, so it won't be obvious that they're trying to be seduced, and the younger, more attractive, more seductive one on the inside. And these booths will be selling, linen garments, which will get them to come and take a look. So make for them these.
No, I was saying he did it already. Asalan Kilayim, so then he did.
Oh, right. Thank you. Sorry, I was right the first time. Asalan Kilayim. So he made these curtains. From the Mount Shelag to Beit HaYishimot, he created this huge street fair or whatever, a wilderness fair. Vahoshi ben Zonot, and he followed the advice. He put the prostitutes there. The older one on the outside, the young one on the inside. And you have to imagine that they are projecting from a reality that they experienced, I guess in the Roman marketplaces or whatever, but so I do wonder though how much, were there prostitutes? I mean, actually that comes up in other places, right? Where there's the beginning of Avodah Zarah, it says, oh, the Romans are, they really did some wonderful things. They made these, whatever, they made the fairs and they made these markets and they made the bathhouses, and no, they only need the markets to make booths for the prostitutes to be in. So it definitely seemed like in these markets, these Roman markets, there were these, the prostitutes were doing a brisk business. So they're sort of retrojecting this whole experience, okay? So he did this. And they were enjoying the good food of the street fair, and they were going and walking in a market. So the older woman says, hey, wouldn't you be interested in some nice, beautiful linen garments? Okay. Now he says, yeah, how much is it? So the older woman gives him the fair market price, and he's haggling there. And then the younger, attractive woman, she's saying, oh, no, come, I'll give you a 20% discount. Oh, so he follows the younger woman, gets, that's another way to get us, by giving us a discount. So anyway, so this happens 2 or 3 times. So they're spending a lot of time with these younger women, and it's all in the context of trying to get a good deal on these linen garments. Okay. The irony also is that you imagine, although it's not saying it, I don't know, I'm imagining who likes, presumably I think the cultural assumption would be it would be the women who would, want the linen garments. So there are these men, they're trying to buy some nice, material for their wives while they're I don't know if that's exactly a subtext, or I'm just reading that in. But anyway, okay. So spends, does it 2 or 3 times. You know what? You've been spending so much time here, as we've been discussing prices. You've come back to buy from me a few times. Shave, come, take a sit, take a load off. You can search through the wares on your own. Come here, spend a little time. And she had a little flask of Ammonite wine. It's funny, they're Moab. Why it's mentioning Ammon wine, I don't know. Anyway, here's a little interpolation. Oh, by the way, at that stage, since it was in the biblical and not yet the rabbinic period, the wine of non-Jews had not yet been forbidden. That didn't mention why they were ochlim b'shosim. I guess it assumes it was vegetarian fare or something. Okay, and they were able to drink wine also because, and also giving a hint about why the wine should be forbidden. Because you're able to when you socialize with wine, one thing leads to another. Amrullah, so he came, he spent some time, he was drinking wine. So would you like some wine? So of course he took some wine. He drank the wine beer bow. So his lust was inflamed. Thank you. Amrullah, Hishmili, and then he said to her, listen to me, have sex with me. Now she used this as leverage. She took out her idol from her bosom. Amrullah, she said to him, Avod lezeh, first worship my God, and then I'll agree to you. Amrullah, he said to her, hello Yehudi ani. Talk about a retrojecting, right? I'm a Jew, like not a hello Yisrael ani, it's hello Yehudi ani. I'm a Jew. Amrullah. So obviously it's also what way, of course, that the rabbis are critiquing or alerting people to the dangers, about now we alert people to the dangers of the internet, right? They were alerting them, all of these, what is it called, whatever, all of these things are available to them. You have to be aware how these different things could seduce you when you allow yourself this, this emporia of options and of pleasures, as it were. So anyway, he said to her, I'm a Jew. Amrullah, ma ichbas l'cha. All right, big deal, you're a Jew. Pure. I'm not asking from you anything that really would compromise your religion. Just go ahead and defecate in front of it. That's obviously not a serious problem. That's
the problem. Question is, can be held liable for doing that?
Well, but the point is, he knows that there's a problem. I mean, whatever. First of all, as you see, that's inserted into the text.
No, but I'm saying, based on what we learned,
yeah, but the question is not making him chayav for what is other. The question is how one thing led to the next, as we'll see. You get people to step over little lines, right? That's the way. You a little line, and then somebody goes much, further than they ever would have imagined going. All right, so lo od. Now that, of course, doesn't follow, right? It seems like he was on his guard, and then she says, "Oh, all I'm asking you to do is just defecate. Oh, and also deny your faith. Deny your Torah." So Rashi inserts after he did this. Then she said, one thing led to the next, and she got him to do tiny little things, each one which she sort of minimized the problem to the point where it's like basically he had taken so many steps away from where he normally where his line was, that he said, now if you really want to have sex with me, you have to deny the Torah of Moshe. They went to the Baal Peor, and they strayed for their embarrassment. And they became like sort of abominations with their love or lust here. Okay, so basically because of the enticements of this whole world here, and ultimately they were led astray. Okay, Israel dwelt in the Shittim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, by the way, it's interesting, right, with all that, which is why it's always interesting to read Gemara Avodah Zarah. I think it's just so much about Chazal trying to manage the interactions with an outside society, which is seen as potentially dangerous. And so much, like, it's actually interesting contrasting the Toseftas of Avodah Zarah with the Mishnah, because it's almost like the difference between like Haredi and modern Orthodoxy. The Tosefta is very much about having like these non-porous high walls, between, because of all these threats. Whereas the Mishnah, identifies specific things that are threats, right? Non-kosher food, things that are idolatrous, and so on. But ultimately allows, a pretty great degree of interaction. So even at the same time, sort of acknowledging all these potential threats, that doesn't mean that it's, what did they forbid? They forbid drinking wine. They didn't forbid going to the marketplace, So like, thinking about nowadays, people that want to say, you shouldn't be on the internet at all, or these types of things. Like, where do you find the right balances between these types of things? Okay, so now the Gemara says like this: Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim, they dwelt in the Shittim, and then it says, and the people began to fornicate after the daughters of Moab. So Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Shittim Shema, that was its name. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer, so there's going to be a consistent debate of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua interprets these things midrashically, sort of like as if there's meaning in the names. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer Shinit Aska b'divrei shtus. No, they were led astray by nonsense. But they called the people to worship to their gods, to sacrifice to their gods. Rabbi Eliezer Omer arumot pagu behen. They came up to them naked and sort of, so it's a very blatant type of a seduction. I don't know where he gets that from. The pasuk.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Rabbi Yoshua Omer shenasan
So
ba'kulam
that's the
ba'alei
point.
kiryim.
What's the whole point of the Pishtan there?
Well, it's a different version. Okay, that they all became from Vatikrena from Baal Keri. All the people sort of became, had seminal emission. Milosh and Rifidim. Now, because we're mentioning one debate of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, we mention another one about a meaning of a name by the Rifidim and by Amalek. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Rifidim Shema, that was just the name where Amalek encountered them. Rabbi Yoshua Omer Sherifu Atman Divei Torah. No, their hands were weakened from Torah. The word Rifayon, not from Rifidim, and that led to Amalek to attack. Shene'emar Leo Hifnu Avot Abanim Rifayon Yadayim. The father does not turn to the sons from the weakness of the hands, so the word Rifayon. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Makom Shene'emar Vayeshev, they dwelt. Vayeshev Am B'Shitim. Eno Aloshon Tsar. You know it means that bad things are going to happen. Okay, Shene'emar Vayeshev Yisrael B'Shitim, and then what happens? Vayichala Am Liznot Avnei Orav. They began to fornicate.
Vayeshev. Don't we have Betach Badad in Yaakov?
It's an interesting point. Okay, that's not historical, though. That's a bracha, but that's a good question. You're always bringing counterexamples. Not helpful. Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Migurei Aviv. Of course, that's exactly right. What Rabbi Yochanan, right after Reish Lakish passed away, whoever it was, every time he said something, somebody said, "Oh, here's a proof. Here's a proof." And he said, "What do I need you for?" When Reish Lakish was alive, every time I said something, he brought me 10 counterexamples. Okay, but it's not helpful when I'm trying to get through a big daf. All right. Anyway, all right. V'ne'amar, it said, Vayeshev Yaakov Beretz Migurei Aviv. He dwelt in the land of his forefathers, Beretz Canaan, and then Vayavei Yosef. He was Samuel Aviyam. What happens? It's the whole bringing of the evil speech and going down into the exile and being selling of Yosef. V'ne'amar Vayeshev Yisrael Beretz Goshen. They dwelt in the land of Goshen, and Vayikruvu Yimei Yisrael Amut. His time came to die, which I don't know. That's a pretty weak one because, it sounds like they had it good in the land of Goshen. People do die eventually. It wasn't like some tragedy ensued, right? He just died. His time came. He lived to a nice old age. Anyway, okay. Vayeshev Yehuda v'Yisrael avetach ish tachas kfanov v'tachas te'inato. They dwelt in security. Each man under his vine and under his fig tree. That also sounds good. And then if you go about 7 chapters later, Vayakam Hashem Satan l'Shlomo es Hadar Hadomi Mizera HaMelech U'Biado, and that this king of this Edomite rose up against Shlomo and did war against Shlomo. So it's a bit of a stretch already, Michael, even going before your verses, right? And you have to go 7 chapters later to get something bad happening. Okay, anyway.
Sort of like Vahi's Lashon Tsar, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ves Malchei Midyan Harguach Aleihem. Back to the story. So they killed the kings of Midian when they went out to war against the Midianites, and then it says Ve'es Bilam ben Beor Hargu Bechorev. They killed Bilam. So what was Bilam doing against the Midianites? He left the king of Moab. He went back to his people. How did he get caught up in this war against the Midianites? Okay, but remember the war against the Midianites. It's also not exactly clear the role the Midianites played, right? Because it says that they fornicated after Benot Moab, but then the story with Pinchas was right what was it? Zimri, right? And somehow it's the Midianites that get focused on as the primary perpetrators, even though the context was all about Moab and the opening verse was Moab. So they went to war against the Midianites, and somehow Bilam happens to be there. And we just said that Bilam was the one who gave them the advice. Okay, so Bilam, my boss, and what was he doing back in Midian? Because his advice led to a plague, 24,000 dying. He wanted to get his payment for his good advice. So Amar Marzuter Bar, and as a result, he got killed. Amar Marzuter Bar Tuvia, Amar Rav, Hainu Dami Imshi, that's what people say. Gamla Azal Mivai Karni. A camel goes to ask for a horn. It's not happy enough with its hump or whatever. It wants a horn. So Udne, the Havileg is Izimine. So as a result, it gets its ears cut off. Don't go ahead and be asking for be a little too greedy and asking for too much. I was just listening the other day to a podcast called Undiscovered. It's a nice podcast. It's about like the backstories of science, like the peoples and the history or whatever. Anyway, so it's about this question about trying to control the weather and seeding clouds and how that started or whatever. Anyway, but it tells a story about a guy who was he had a pretty good reputation about being able to get things to rain, get it to rain. So he was hired by the city of San Diego. Like he was offered $10,000. This was I think at the end of the 19th or the beginning of the 20th century, maybe. Anyway, if he could fill up their the rivers or whatever it would be, they would give him $10,000. So he did whatever he did, threw some chemicals into the air. Anyway, pretty soon afterwards, it started raining and pouring, and it's pouring and pouring and pouring. Many many days, and it's flooded, and it did like $10 million worth of damage. So anyway, so it's sort of like a Choni Hamago story. So, so because sometimes, things happen by coincidence, exactly assuming causal relationships. Anyway, he ran away. A year later, he came back and he wanted to get paid. And they said to him, you want to get paid? Here's the $10 million bill for the damages you caused. Like, if you want to take credit for it, then you're going to take that, then you have to take credit. Okay, so anyway, so this Bilam went back to get paid, and this is what happened to him. Amar Zuter Bar Tuv Yamarav. Hainu Dami Incha, we just said that. Okay. Veit Bilam ben Beor HaKosein. This is in Yoshua. Bilam ben Beor, the magician or whatever. Kosein, magician or whatever. Noviu, he's a prophet, right? I mean, when Yoshua is retelling it, it's not surprising that Yoshua wants to downplay his weight. You don't want to call him a Novi, but okay, but how do you reconcile that? Yeah, he started as a Novi, but in the end, right, he had, when he wasn't getting God to do it, he was trying these more magical devices, maybe. What does Rashi say? Oh no, Rashi says that God is a result because he tried to do this bad thing. God removed the ability of prophecy from him. Amar Yochanan, that's what people say. Misagne Vishilti Havai. This woman came from kings and leaders. Izin Ligavri Nagri. She winds up being a prostitute for carpenters. Okay, so it's like the mighty have fallen. All right, do the Abba bet. Hargu Bnei Yisrael becharev, back to the pasuk in Yoshua. So the Bnei Yisrael killed him with a sword, this Bilam. So El Chalehem, on their corpses. So the extra El Chalehem is like a little superfluous, and we're reading it's going to be like multiple deaths they inflicted upon him. Amarav Shakimu Bo Arba Miso, Skila Sreifa Herek Chenek. So they did all the things.
So I don't know how you get that.
I don't know. The extra word I think of El Chalehem. The Chalehem is like a multiplicity. What does it mean? They killed him on the corpses. Okay, so they made him into a corpse multiple times. Okay, they hanged him, they burnt him on the cross or on the thing he was hanged on. Then they chopped off his head, and then that was I don't know, whatever. Okay, Rabbi Chanina. So a certain apostate or sectarian said to Rabbi Chanina, now this doesn't seem like a classic, Min trying to make trouble. He just says, hey, you know how old Bilam was when he died? Amalei, he said to him, look, it's not written. The people of blood and of deceit, they will not live to half their lives. So either bar klasin v'klas shanin or bar klasin v'arba, either 33 or 34. So whenever it says min, like there's a good chance it's talking about a Hebrew, like a Jewish Christian, and Jesus was in his 30s, right?
About 33.
He was about 33, 34. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, that this was a hidden reference to Jesus. Amalei, Shapir Kamarta. You know what? That's good answer. You passed the test. I actually happened to see Bilam's diary. Man, imagine what that would get you on eBay. I happened to see Bilam's diary. It was written in it by Bilam Chagira. 33 years old was Bilam, the lame person. Remember, before we said he was lame. Didn't say Pinchas, so I don't know how Bilam was writing this. Maybe his sons wrote this in his diary, like the last 8 psukim in the Torah, right, which speaks about Moshe's death. Anyway, somehow in Bilam's diary or ledger was written that Bilam, the lame person, was 33 when Pinchas smote him. Lista. Now, Lista, Rashi here interprets to mean like a sergeant, an officer, but listis usually means like a bandit. So this is from Bilam's perspective, or the perspective of whoever's writing in Bilam's diary. So it makes Pinchas into the wicked one. Now the question is, where did Pinchas kill Bilam? So Rashi says, well, he didn't personally have to kill him, but he was the one leading the war effort, so it's like he killed him. Okay, Amalei Mar Brei Ravina Libre. So the Mar, the son of Ravina, said to his son, "Bekulu lo tafis l'midrash." Remember, we had the issue before about spending too much time talking about the evil of the kings and about how the kings were, the Jewish kings were great people. It said, he says, look, when you spend time like how learning Perek Chelek and talking about all the evil of the people that don't have a Chelek Olam Haba, don't do too much about everybody, about the Jews there, like about the kings and the commoners. Like, you say the bad stuff, but don't spend a lot of time on it. Labar mi Bilam Harash, except for Bilam. He's the one non-Jew in the list. I think that's presumably why. Him, you can spend a lot of time explicating how evil he was. The comment of Mishkach Bey Derosh Bey, as much as you can say, learn to explicate and expound and say that he was evil, have a ball. Okay, now we're moving from Bilam to Doeg. Doeg Hadomi,
So
right? The one who told Shaul that David was hiding and got hold, no, your Kohanim wiped out, and so on. Yes.
Usually when you have like this man approaching somebody, it's
Right, I said it doesn't have
right.
the normal end that those stories normally have.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Although if you look at, it could be, I shouldn't check. Anytime there's a min thing, it might be something was censored out. If you want to sort of check in the what do you go, the Steinsaltz there. But yeah, other than the possible hidden reference to Jesus, it's not exactly clear what this has to do with a min. All right. So anyway, it says like this. Okay, so now up to Doeg. Okay, so remember, it always starts with a little play on the words of his name. Ksiv Doeg, Ksiv Doyag. It's written in one place with Dalet Vav Yud Yud Gimel. I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Betchila Yosef Kodesh Baruch Hu Doeg Shem Yetzi Zel Tarbut Ra, because Doeg, was like this great wise person according to Chazal, right? Tremendous Talmud Chacham, all these amazing things. So God was anxious because even when he was righteous, God sort of, it's always the question about God knowing the future and free will, but God knew that there was always this potential that he could go astray. So that's Doeg. And then once it actually actualized, Amar Vai, that's Do Vai, Vav Yud Yud, woe, Sheyatza said. Woe that this person in the end was born, even though he started his life so righteous, or woe that he left the good path and he went to the evil path. Rabbi Yitzchak, what's meant by the verse? Mati talel bera'ah hagibor, chaser el kol hayom. No, that's chesed, right? Okay, so why will the mighty person praise himself, glorify himself with evil? Chesed el kol hayom, the kindness of God the whole day. So what does that mean? Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu Doeg. Lo gibor b'Torah? I don't understand how this happened to you. Weren't you a great, valorous person in Torah? Mati talel bara. Why are you glorifying yourself in evil? What led you down this path? Lo chesed el natu elecha kol hayom. Didn't you have God's kindness poured out to you, stretched out to you the whole day? In terms of your learning of Torah, and you were so successful and so on, and serving God. How did you go off the path? So I remember what's meant by the verse. To the wicked person, God says, "What business do you have speaking of my edicts, of my laws?" God said to Doeg, Harasha. A chutzpah, you now that you're teaching my Torah. Let's say you're going and you're learning Makos, right? And you're talking about our Sanhedrin, and you're talking about all of the punishments for the murderers. Okay, how do you think you're supposed to give shir on that after what you've done? Okay, Parshas Misapri Lashon Hara, and then when you're talking about Lashon Hara, like where how can you teach my Torah? You are which is now Chazal, which is a point that we've seen before. About these great kings or whatever. Here's a commoner learning Torah. So sometimes it's a little bit to mitigate and show that people are complex, but also it's to show that just learning Torah doesn't make you a righteous person. Here you could be extremely knowledgeable. Maybe you give a brilliant shiur and you're completely a corrupt person, and you don't live the messages of it. So it's sort of like what's the pasuk? Kimalach Hashem tzvakos. What is it? Sifsei Kohen Sifsei Kohen Yishmu das v'tor yivakesh mipiu ki malach Hashem tzvaosu. Right? If your rabbi is like an angel of God, then you can learn Torah from him. Torah is just not an intellectual pursuit. It's about, the rabbi is supposed to be, or the teacher is supposed to be, an embodiment of what Torah is about, a living example of what Torah is about. So, given what you've done, how do you think you're supposed to give a shiur on halachas of Ritzicha? So, Misapri Lashon Hara, Mata Doresh Bem. What are you going to explicate about them? Okay, Vatisa Briti Ale Picha, you lift up my covenant on your mouth. Given that you are such a a contradiction to everything, an anathema to everything that it's about. It didn't transform him. It was only from the lips outward, right? So he could teach Torah, but it never pierced inside of him. It was only what he was saying. It was never about who he was. Or now I don't know if this is all of the whole time after he sinned. Maybe initially it was, and then he went off the path. But anyway, the point is that in theory, you can have somebody that gives a great shiur and is a disgusting person and is a complete anathema to whatever all the Torah is about. What's meant by the verse? The righteous saw and they feared. And on him they would laugh. Initially initially they feared that people would learn from the bad example of Doag, because here he was a Talmid Chacham, and maybe he would lead people astray. And then when he met his downfall, they laughed, because now they saw, oh good, people won't learn from him. What's meant by the verse, right? Because that's the other problem. Of course, somebody's a big Talmid Chacham and they're not a good person, he can lead other people astray. What's meant by the verse? Chel bala vayakienu. He swallowed, great treasure, whatever, and then he spit it up. No yod shenu el, from his innards, God will, drive him out. So what does that mean? I'm a David, master of the universe. Yamus Doag. Doag should die for his evil. He swallowed a great force. He's learned a lot of Torah. I don't want to bring death upon him until he spits it out, until he loses his Torah. Okay, I'm really fun of me. Beat no Yoshenuel. God, you do it. You made him drive it out of his stomach. You make him forget his Torah, if that's what it's going to take for you to bring about his death. What's meant by the verse? Even God will sort of crush you forever. I want Doag to get Olam Haba. Remember, before there was an approach that said all of these people have a chelik Olam Haba except Bilam, and then he said, and if David complains, God will say, I'll make peace with David and Doag, and David and Achitofel. These are the two people, right, who caused, who were obviously, foes of David. So here, this is saying that Doag isn't getting Olam Haba, but God still wants to give him Olam Haba, but David is not happy with it. Amar Lefanam. So David said to God, God should crush you. God, you should crush him forever. No, don't let him get Olam Haba. My deceive. What's meant by the verse? God shall cut you off and remove you from the tent, and your root from the land of the living. Fine, you don't want him to get Olam Haba, but what about his Torah? Let them at least say over Torah in his name in the base medrash. So Amar Lefanav. Let him be cut off from the tent of Torah. No, he shouldn't even be quoted in the tent of Torah. Okay, but at least let his kids be Talmidei Chacham. No. Let his root be cut off from the land of living. I know. Right, and before we learned, right, that even the Bnei Banav Shel Nebuchadnezzar, etc. So the question here is, who's right in this argument? Is it clear that David is right? I mean, David has a very deep personal stake in this, right? He's the wronged party. Because maybe God is right, but God maybe has to concede to David because, David is refusing to allow it. So it's not exactly, I think the whole point is to express the complexity of this issue, right? It's all, the whole question, right? What do you do about scientific findings that were discovered through, immoral types of things, right? So what do you do about the Torah of an immoral man that's still good Torah? And does he deserve the credit of his descendants? On the other hand, the descendants, why shouldn't the descendants be Talmidei Chacham, right? So I think this is here to just embody that complexity. I don't think there's a clear sense of whether David is right or God is right here. Okay. What's meant by the verse? Where is the counter? Where's the weigher? Where's the one who counts the towers? So Sofer Kol Osir, once like Doag went off the path. Where is the one? So Sofer Kol Osius Shebetorah. He was able to know all of the letters in the Torah. What happened to his greatness? Or either how did he forget his Torah? How did somebody with all that Torah go off on the right path? Ayesh Shokel, where's the one who weighs? Sheshokel Kol Kalim v'Chamurim Shebetorah, like Kal v'Chomer, weight, light and heavy. He's able to do all these Kal v'Chomer. Ayesh Sofer Samigdalim, who counts the towers. Shayes Sofer Shlosh Me'or Alachot Psukot and Migdal HaPareach Pavir. He could discuss 300 laws about a castle floating in the air. We talk about making castles in the sky, right? Castles in the air. But anyway, Rashi has a couple of explanations what it means. But the best one is that in Orlos there's a discussion about a chest, which is a Migdal. now, and it's half inside the house and half outside the house, and it's exposed to the avir. And what happens if there's a part of a dead body in it, and what is it, whether the tumah is outside the house or in the house? Anyway, so he even knew the most complex halachot.
Reminds me of the other kings also. We were saying before, like Menashe or whatever.
Right, exactly. Amar Rabbi Yami, Arba mea boy bo dog v'achitophel b'migal parech b'avir. Now we're going to bring in Achitophel as well. They were such amazing Talmidei Chachamim. Before it was they could have paskin 300 halachot. Here they could ask 400 questions about a migdal parech b'avir. However, there's like a little undercutting. It's easy to ask questions. Before we said he had 300 halachot psukot, which means like he really came to a conclusion. Now we're sort of stepping back a little bit. Yeah, they asked a lot of questions, but they were only able to resolve one of them. Okay, if you have that insertion there. Amar Rav, 1 minute. Amar Rav, we have Ravus l'mi boy. Big deal. Is it a big deal to ask questions? Now, based on the context, you might say, like anybody can ask questions. It's about coming to answers. But the other point that's being made is that the point, the larger theme that was introduced earlier, which is Torah scholarship is not the same as being a good person. Don't go ahead spending all your time saying, oh my God, he was such an amazing Talmid Chacham. It's like, you know what? It's not all about Torah scholarship, okay? Because in the years of Rabbi Yehuda, all they learned was Nezikin. That's where they did not learn the other 5 Siddharim, Nashim, Moed, certainly not Taros. They just learned Nezikin. We know even the most obscure stuff. We know even Uktzin, which is this, this obscure Masechet in Taros. Okay, and when Rabbi Yehuda would get to the Mishnah, this is in Taros, not Uktzin, a woman who is like pickling a vegetable in a pot, or or olives that are being pickled with their leaves, their tahor, whether the leaf communicates tuma or doesn't communicate tuma. Amar, so he said, like, Rabbi Yehuda was a student of Shmuel. He said, like, oh, these are the types of questions Rav and Shmuel would ask. I have no idea what the heck is going on. Okay, he was like completely clueless. All he knew was Seder Nezikin. And Vanan Kamas Nisan Be'uktin Chlasrei Mesifta. And we have 13 yeshivas, 13 major discussions about this. Nevertheless, so we're like, we're much more knowledgeable and have a much greater breadth and depth, certainly breadth than Rabbi Yehuda.
Right, we don't have you read at the Torah.
And nevertheless, right, so much we read at the Torah. And nevertheless, Rabbi Yehuda, Shalif Misane, V'asi Mitra. All he had to do was take off his shoe and it would rain when it was praying for rain. The Anan, right, just get ready to engage in one of the symbols of like fasting. The Anan, Safchinan, we pray and daven and yell the whole day. And nobody pays attention to us. Ella, the message is HaKadosh Baruch Hu liba boy, which is a little bit play of the word of limivayi boy, liba boy. God doesn't want, your brilliant Talmudic questions. God wants, he's boy, he wants your heart, right? He wants the religious sincerity. So, so again, mentioning that they're big Talmidei Chachamim is partly to make them more complex figures, but it's partly also to say, like, no, and there's a point before, you could be teaching amazing shiurim and asking all these questions, and like, you have no right to be doing it, because ultimately it's about, representing the Torah and having the Torah transform you. Okay, T'chsiv, Hashem yir'eh le'levav, God sees to the heart. So now, okay, so that's one approach. Let him be big Talmidei Chachamim. Who cares? But others don't like that. Don't like that. That's too incongruous. So we said, you know what? They didn't really know how to learn. So Maskif Lamar Zutra, Man Dichsiv Be, the one of whom it's written. I know how we know it's written about dog. You want to say they didn't know how to understand what they were learning, right? Because he doesn't want to have that contradictory type of a mess of a reality. No, so this is going back to some of the tension before. Did they know 300 halacha psukot? Or they knew to ask questions, but they didn't know to come to conclusions. So that's what he said. Now, they might have been big Talmidei Chachamim, but where did the fact that they were not sort of true serving God, how did that express itself in their Torah? It expressed itself in their Torah that if the Torah was just like an intellectual pursuit for them, because it wasn't true avodas Hashem, they didn't come to the right halachic conclusion. Okay? T'chsiv, sod Hashem li're'av. God's secret is those who fear him. So that's how it expresses itself. So that's like a way of striking a balance. You could be a big Talmid Chacham if it's all intellectual games for you, but unless it's avodas Hashem, you're not going to come to the right halachic conclusion. Let's just read one more line. Going back to the story before, God says, let him God didn't want to kill him until he forgot his learning. He didn't die until he forgot his learning. Hu yamut be'ein musar. He will die without musar, without instruction. With his great foolishness, he will err. Okay, Rav Amar Nitztareya, he became a leper. Shenemar Hatsamta Kol Zonah Mimech. Will you cut off all of the sort of prostitutes from you? And when it says the word smitut in the Torah, which is about like the land, selling it for perpetuity, we're talking about a chalut for perpetuity. There's no difference between a leper who's closed up and a leper who's a full leper, a full mitzvah, except for the rending of the garments and the growing of the hair. So it's a whole big thing to get the word hatsamta to refer to being a mitzvah. Anyway,
and what these psukim are actually talking about, he was talking about something else, right?
Yeah, I don't even know. Anyway, one more line about this. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Shlosha malachei chavala and he's damnu lo l'doag. 3 angels of destruction approached Doag. Echad sheshichich talmudo. One made him forget his learning. Echad shesarf nishmasu, burned his soul. Echad shepizer afro bevate knesios bevate midrashos. Okay, which is presumably how he gets some presence in the base medrash. I'm assuming his ashes are there. Okay, so he gets some presence in the base medrash. Okay, so we will end with
a little bit of a bracha.
Okay, right? I guess so. Okay, fine. We'll end with that. To be continued tomorrow.